Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Mari Chen and welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing with the reading of Ballad of Sword and Wine Volume 1, also known as Qingging by Tang Jiu Qing, and we're covering chapters 14 through 17 today. I do just want to put out there for anyone who has not seen, we will be meeting this Friday, January 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss chapters 14 through 21. That's going to be the chapters for today and tomorrow. There will be chapters released on Friday as well, but I don't want us to talk about those just yet so that everyone has time to actually read them. And we will do a little covering of chapters 13 and previous just to go over that really quickly. But I did provide as many notes as I could as possible at the ends of those reading sessions. So we're trying to focus on 17 through 21. Just so you all know, at the end of this video and at the end of tomorrow's video, I won't be really sharing any notes like that because we're going to do all of that in our discussion. So you'll just pretty much get reactions from me maybe. But as far as outlining details of things, I'm going to hold off on that for our reading session. Also, just saying all of this in the beginning because I feel like it's important to do so. I have spoken with my Patreoners and we have decided that for Qingging, YouTube and Patreon are going to get the videos released at the same time rather than Patreon getting the videos 48 hours early. We went ahead and finalized that. That way, when we all go live together, everyone is caught up, at least as long as you're listening to the chapters. So yeah, we're all enjoying this all together at the same time. The only difference is, of course, still remaining with the whole live readings being only Patreon, except for, maybe one for YouTube for, technically that doesn't start until March. But if I can do an extra live in February, then I'll do so. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get started, and I hope you all enjoy these chapters. Again, that's 14 through 17. Chapter 14, Praying Mantis. Zechuan followed the guard inside and knelt before the hanging curtains. The Xian emperor leaned against the head of the bed, while the empress dowager sat straight-backed beside it. Pahn Rugui stepped back with a bowl of medicine he was holding to reveal Zechuan's presence to them. The emperor made an effort to gather him. The patrol from the 8 great battalions said they saw your footman beside the pond. We ask you, what was he doing there? To answer your majesty, Zechuan said, Gushu was waiting for Fu Gongong from the palace. On what orders? Zechuan paused, then kowtowed. On this offending subject's orders. The emperor coughed feebly. You are confined to the Temple of Guilt, which receives a monthly provision of food and clothing from the palace. What connections do you have with Xiao? Upon your majesty's mercy, this offending subject was permitted to remain in the Temple of Guilt and reflect on past wrongs. Your majesty even sustained my life with food. Sadly, this offending subject recently fell ill, and coupled with my old ailment, it became increasingly difficult to get up every day. Zechuan was the very picture of grief. Although the palace sends my meals, there is no medicine. Gushu has been assigned to the temple for a long time. He took pity on this offending subject and, seeing Fu Gongong out on an errand, asked for medicine from the palace. Later, this offending subject asked Gushu again to beseech Fu Gongong to bring some blessing oil lamps for me. You have no family, said the empress dowager. What use do you have for lamps to pray for blessings? This sinful subject is conscious of my heinous offenses. I've been praying by the lamp in the temple day and night for the health of the emperor and the empress dowager. I also recite sutras for the loyal martyrs who lost their lives in Zhongbo at the Battle of Chashur. Zechuan spoke piously. This offending subject has planted some vegetables on the temple's grounds and asked Gushu to sell them at the morning market. Since this illness of mine is unlikely to improve, it is far better to trade those coins for blessing oil lamps than spend it on medicine. The empress dowager sighed deeply. Although you are indeed guilty, your sins are not unforgivable. The Xiande Emperor closed his eyes, weary. Xiao Fuzi is dead. Do you know of anyone who might have had a dispute with him? Shun Zechuan shook his head. He said softly, although this offending subject was bold enough to beseech Fu Gongong to buy lamps, I have never met Fu Gongong in person nor exchanged letters with him. And what about you? The emperor motioned for Gahng to speak. Tell us, did he mention anything to you in passing? Gahng dared not look at the emperor directly. He answered with a mixture of awe and fear, as an ordinary footman would. Your Majesty, whenever Fu Gongong left the palace, it was only for procurement. He had such a busy schedule. He usually sent those serving under him to meet this humble one. On hearing this, the Xiande Emperor cast a self-mocking glance at Pahn Rugui, who stood as still as a wooden statue. But once, Gahng continued, this humble servant greeted Fu Gongong in his sedan and heard him talking to his attendants, something about His Highness flying into a humiliated rage and looking to create trouble for him. At the time, this humble servant was anxious to give Fu Gongong the money for the oil lamps, which was why I stood closer than usual. But Fu Gongong was pressed for time. He told this humble one to come to the West Gardens today instead to wait for him. This is how the guards on patrol came to see this humble servant lingering by the pond. Are you sure you heard it correctly? Pahn Rugui probed. It was His Highness and not someone else? Gahng kowtowed repeatedly. How would I dare deceive His Majesty? Many people saw this humble servant in the market that day. You have only to ask around to determine whether this humble one is lying. The emperor said nothing for a long time. The heavy smell of medicine permeated the room. At last, holding a handkerchief over her nose and mouth, the Empress Dowager leaned over and said, Your Majesty, we cannot rely on Xiao Qr-yeh's story alone to determine the motives behind Xiao Fuzi's death. This incident happened mere steps away from your imperial person. If it is as this man says, and Prince Chu was the one who wanted Xiao Fuzi dead, why would Xiao Chr-yeh go so far to muddle the facts? Your Majesty, Pahn Rugui added quietly, Xiao Fuzi's life is of little consequence. If Prince Chu killed him out of a personal grudge, there is no great matter. But I'm afraid things may not be so simple. His Majesty hardly steps out of the palace, while Xiao Fuzi frequently came and went. Why didn't Prince Chu choose some other day? Why now? The Xiande Emperor doubled over with another spate of coughing. He pushed aside Pahn Rugui's hand and used his own handkerchief to wipe the blood on his lips. Jianheng is our own brother, he said without looking up. We understand his temperament better than anyone. Since the case has already progressed this far, Jile may see it to its end. All of this happened because Xiao Fuzi abused his station, lorded over others, and overstepped his bounds, creating resentment and envy. Chr-yeh shall be confined to his manor for half a month, while Jile and Zhigu-ANNE shall have their salaries suspended for 3. Pahn Rugui, relay the message. When they've heard it, they may be dismissed. Pahn Rugui turned to the Empress Dowager. But the Empress Dowager was silent. The Xiande Emperor also turned to the Empress Dowager, his tone earnest. Imperial Mother, we live in troubled times. Autumn approaches, and the situation on the frontiers is precarious. Trade conflicts there increase day by day. The troops in Libei, Qidong, and its Bianjun commandery must stand fast. We cannot afford a blow to morale. If we pursue this matter and it ends up implicating certain people, it may produce dissatisfaction at the frontier. In that case, the common folks will be the ones to suffer. Although the pain of Zhongbo has passed, its humiliation has yet to be avenged in the eyes of our soldiers. We mustn't drag this case out, Imperial Mother, lest we lose the faith of the people. The Empress Dowager's brow was lined with concern as she tucked the quilt tighter around the Emperor. How blessed the Empire is! Your Majesty is still worrying over state affairs while so gravely indisposed. Go on, Pahn Rugui. Pahn Rugui acknowledged her orders and slowly backed out the door. The way I see it, the Empress Dowager continued, the 8th son of the Shun clan wishes earnestly to repent and mend his ways. He is nothing like Shun Wei. He is a child you can use." "His health is poor," said the emperor. "We're afraid he's not well enough to take up any duties. Perhaps it's better for him to continue his convalescence in the temple." The Empress Dowager slowly drew away from him. "Your Majesty is right, of course, but he is already here. If we send him back now for no reason, it will arouse suspicion about the particulars of this case. Is that not contrary to your Majesty's desires?" The Xian de Emperor turned to Shun Zechuan with a smile. "The Empress Dowager thinks highly of you. You must keep this in mind. Don't go down the same path as your treacherous father. Let's send you to the embroidered uniform guard then. Their 12 offices tend to a variety of duties. There will naturally be work for you to do." Shun Zechuan prostrated himself to thank the emperor for his grace. When everyone had left, the emperor leaned over the edge of his bed and threw up the medicine he had ingested earlier. His face was ashen under the dim light of the candles. The quilt covering his hands had been wrung into creases. His health was truly dire. On a veranda that stretched over the pond, the Empress Dowager walked with Pahn Rugui supporting her elbow. Hua Xiangyi, arms full of fresh-picked lotus blossoms, followed at a distance alongside the maidservants. "Since his last bout of illness, His Majesty has grown more obstinate," the Empress Dowager said as she walked. "How can a man so gravely ill continue to wear himself down with routine matters of the state? As they say, illness strikes quick as an onrushing avalanche. Convalescence comes slow as pulling silk from a cocoon," Pahn Rugui said. "His Majesty is merely anxious to get back on his feet. When I selected Jian Yuan back then, it was because I valued his gentle and refined ways, as well as his biddable nature. He has frequently been in poor health over the years, yet he has done his best." The Empress Dowager glanced at Pahn Rugui and continued. "But who could predict his great fear of the Xiao clan? Every time he must make a choice, he tries to not offend either party. But you can't always please everyone. When it comes to Chudu, your Majesty's words are what matters. Once the imperial concubine, Lady Wei, is pregnant with a son, your Majesty need worry no longer." The Empress Dowager raised her hand and patted Pahn Rugui's supporting arm. She said meaningfully, "Before concubine Wei is with child, we'll need you to put close watch over His Majesty's health." "Yes, your Majesty," Pahn Rugui replied. "This servant has been keeping a sharp eye." The crowd was scattered by the time Shun Zechuan came out with Gahng behind him. They emerged just in time to see Chr-yeh riding out. "I thought the imperial army was a dead end for idlers." Eyeing Chr-yeh's waist and legs, Shun Zechuan added, "But judging from his physique, he's clearly kept up with his training." An expert in horseback archery, Gahng narrowed his eyes and studied Chr-yeh's retreating back. But without exchanging blows with him, "I can't guess the lad's strength. If he could already draw the mighty bows of Li Bei 5 years ago, I'm afraid he's even stronger now. Don't fight him, Chuanar, unless absolutely necessary." Before Shun Zechuan could answer, Chr-yeh suddenly reined his horse around and charged straight at him. Oh, God. Shun Zechuan stared Chr-yeh down without dodging or giving way. He watched the horse draw closer and closer, brushing past him by a hair's breadth at the last second. Shun Zechuan's wide sleeves fluttered with a gust of wind and settled back down in its wake. "What does this case have to do with you?" Chr-yeh's horse circled Shun Zechuan. "It has nothing to do with me." Shun Zechuan smiled up at him again. "It has plenty to do with you, Argongze. Pahn Rugui lost his lapdog, and I took a tumble from grace. No one reaped any benefits today except you." Chr-yeh leaned over his saddle and peered down at him. "You don't stay down for long, I'll give you that. But how do you get so lucky?" Shun Zechuan looked back at him and replied with humility, "It's all thanks to association with Argongze's noble aura. If it weren't for the move you made, how would I have seized this opportunity?" Chr-yeh's eyes were cold. "You certainly are well informed." "A cheap trick is all," Shun Zechuan said. Chr-yeh glanced up at the sky. The gerfalcon had a sparrow in its grasp and was hovering midair, awaiting its reward. "So you've been let out," he whistled, and the gerfalcon landed on the rooftop and tore apart the little bird in its claws. Turning back to Shun Zechuan, he continued, "Chudu is large. One has to find entertainment somehow." "A noble truly is a rarefied creature," Shun Zechuan said. "Even the entertainment you seek differs from the common man. Dining, whining, whoring, and gambling are all beneath your station. You prefer to play with lives, but playing alone isn't as fun as playing together. It wouldn't be very interesting to have only me for company." The corners of Xiao Chr-yeh's mouth quirked up as he said, riding crop in hand, "Looking at you is interesting enough. Why would I want others to come between us?" "Oh?" "That's an honor too great for me to bear," Shun Zechuan said. "Besides, I found so many friends for our Gongzi." "Better to worry about yourself than me." Xiao Chr-yeh shifted his gaze. "There are such good prospects in the embroidered uniform guard, and Ji-lei thinks so highly of you. I'm sure he'll be looking forward to your imminent presence." Shun Zechuan chuckled. He looked at Xiao Chr-yeh, eyes curved in a smile, and said gently, "You and I are but birds in a cage. I may have good prospects, but aren't you also confined by your comforts? Yet I am alone with no tethers, and therefore free from worries and concerns. Are you our Gongzi?" The backdrop of hanging lanterns haloed Shun Zechuan's jade-like beauty. The gerfalcon finished his feast and landed on Xiao Chr-yeh's shoulder. "If we're all caged birds," Xiao Chr-yeh said, flicking dust from his falcon's feathers, "why pretend to be free?" Shun Zechuan returned to the temple, took his medicine, and sat in the courtyard across a small table from Grand Mentor Qi. Gahng had cleared out of the courtyard in the Temple of Guild and, at Grand Mentor Qi's request, planted bamboo and even a vegetable garden. It had become quite the refreshing place to sit on a summer night. "His Majesty has no desire to pursue the matter," Shun Zechuan said. "He allowed my release to protect Prince Chu. Xianxiang's foresight truly is incredible." "Whether it's incredible or not, it's too early to tell." Grand Mentor Qi tapped a weighty piece on the table and clicked his tongue. "They say His Majesty's been in such poor health since the beginning of the year that he's confined to his bed. The man's in the prime of his life, with the whole court of imperial physicians attending him, yet he's weaker now than he was in his prince's manner. Pahn Rugui may very well deserve the credit for this." Gahng squatted at the entrance, grinding a stone. Much of His Majesty's fury was directed at them. Even Ji-lei didn't escape punishment. I'd guess he's been harboring resentment for a long time. "When one feels their time is running out, they will grow bolder," Grand Mentor Qi said. "As emperor, he spent his entire life making concessions." Shun Zechuan finished his medicine and wrinkled his nose at the bitter aftertaste. "The Empress Dowager has no love for Prince Chu, but he's the only one who can ascend the throne. Ji-lei took several swipes at the prince today. If you told me Pahn Rugui put him up to it, I'd believe it. But if Pahn Rugui is set on sending Prince Chu to his doom, it'll be because he's no longer concerned about consequences. There must be another heir somewhere in the palace, someone easier to manipulate than Prince Chu. The late emperor was a man in control of his appetites. Gahng blew the dust from his rock, so I doubt it. Anyhow, if there was such an heir, how could they have kept him hidden all these years? As long as Li blood runs in him, he's an imperial heir." Grand Mentor Qi held a weighty piece between his fingers. "The late emperor might not have another son, but can't the current emperor beget one? Once a future emperor is born in the inner palace, after this one breathes his last, the Empress Dowager will be free to hold court with the babe in her arms. She can set aside the screen altogether. They can appoint Hua Sichuan the regent minister. When that time comes, our great Zhou will truly belong to the Hua." "But Xiao Chr-yeh is close to Prince Chu," The Xiao clan has nothing to lose and everything to gain if Prince Chu ascends the throne. Shun Zichuan rolled his own Wei Qi piece between his fingers. In no world would Li Bei simply stand aside and watch. As long as Prince Chu lives, Xiao Jiming and Loo Gwahng-bye of the Bianzhong Commandery can command their troops to storm Chudu in his name. The 8 great battalions don't stand a chance. Grand Mentor Qi propped his elbows on the table and scratched at his unkempt hair. Think, Lanzhou. You think the Empress Dowager hasn't considered that? Why do you imagine they kept Xiao Chr-yeh here 5 years ago? With Xiao Chr-yeh in their hands, Xiao Jiming won't make any rash move. Chudu's 8 battalions don't stand a chance against Li Bei's armored cavalry. But what about the garrison troops of Qidong? The Qi clan has no dog in this fight. Juyin and her troops would be obligated to stop Xiao Jiming, if only for the sake of demonstrating fealty to the throne. As Shun Zichuan contemplated in silence, Gahng asked, "Isn't our emperor still alive? What's the point in worrying about that now? Tomorrow, Chuan joins the embroidered uniform guard, directly under Jilei's command. Now that's what I'm worried about." That's why I said I don't have incredible foresight. Grand Mentor Qi snapped irritably. Sending Lanzhou to the embroidered uniform guard is a means of freeing him, which happens to match the Empress Dowager's wishes. But does the Empress really not remember who interrogated Lanzhou in the imperial prison? Why do you think she's pushing known adversaries together like this? Gahng, I meant to ask, when you found Xiao Fuzi today, was he really still breathing? Gahng wiped away the dust on the stone with a fingertip. After a moment, he answered, "It's hard to say. There wasn't time to take a closer look." And there we are. Grand Mentor Qi turned back to Shun Zichuan. Think carefully. If Xiao Fuzi was already dead before we laid our hands on him, then who did it? Chapter 15. Oriole. Early on the day Shun Zichuan was to visit the embroidered uniform guard office to accept his post, Xi Gu'an's younger brother, Xi Hongxuan, hosted a feast for the upcoming scholars and promising talents in Chudu. All were invited to exchange civil discourse at Chao Dong Tavern. Xi Hongxuan was an obese man. An attendant beside his chair was required to fan him without pause. "It's a humble one's lucky year," he said, another bamboo fan in his own hand. "Although I couldn't get Yanqing to come, I managed to make Yuanzhou promise to grace us with his rare presence." Xue Xiuzhou had to attend to his official duties, so he was absent. But the Yuanzhou Xi Hongxuan was so proud of was Yao Wenyu, the beloved pupil of the current Secretariat Elder, Hai Liangyi. These 3 young men addressed each other with great familiarity. They were all of the great 8 clans to begin with, and had known each other since childhood. As if on cue, the bead curtain lifted to reveal an elegant scholar, gentle and pure as jade. He was dressed in a deep blue, wide-sleeved robe with slanting collars, and a small money pouch hung on his waist. Upon hearing Xi Hongxuan's boasting, he merely smiled. The other scholars in attendance rose and offered a chorus of courteous greetings. Yao Wenyu greeted them all individually. Only after he invited everyone to take their seats did he sit himself. "My dear fellow, we meet every year. How am I worthy of the words rare presence?" As humble as he was, none present were brave enough to tease him. Yao Wenyu had been the child prodigy of Chudu since his early years. He composed poetry at 8 years old and verse at 12. This young man was the jade cradled in the palms of the old master of the Yao clan. To prevent his prodigious talents from waning, they had placed him under Hai Liangyi's tutelage. Secretariat Elder Hai was by nature inflexible and stern. To this day, he had only a single student, one he prized greatly. Greetings and small talk soon yielded to discussions of the latest news. Xi Hongxuan motioned to his attendants to stop fanning him. "Something truly strange is brewing in Chudu these days. I'm sure everyone here still remembers the Prince of Jianxing, Zhao Hui, who self-immolated for fear of judgment 5 years ago. Huh. The vile man who colluded with our enemies and cowered from battle. One scholar straightened up from his seat. He should have been beheaded under the law. Even executing his entire clan wouldn't have been unreasonable. How unfortunate that the one wretched remnant of the Shun clan was spared thanks to His Majesty's benevolence. And just this morning, I heard he's been released. The evidence of Shun Wei's crime is conclusive. How could the son of such a disgraced and defeated subject take up an official post? Are the virtuous talents from across the land expected to lie down and accept this? Precisely, Shee Hongxuan agreed. How could it be? There is no precedent for such a thing. If you ask me, Her Majesty wants to preserve him. Someone else chimed in. Everyone knows this wretch has ties to the Hua clan. But how could personal relationships prevail over concerns of the state? Is this not a violation of our most basic laws? Shee Hongxuan sighed, heavy-hearted. I'm afraid this will give all the heirs of future damned officials a loophole to exploit. The idea incensed the scholars. Shun Wei's crimes were so severe. How could they accept Shun Zichuan's release? What does Yuanzhou think? Yao Wenyu drank his tea and answered evenly. I have been away from the capital for some time, so I'm afraid I'm unfamiliar with the case. I couldn't comment. That's right, Shee Hongxuan mused. You travel so often for your studies. You aren't aware of what's happening in Chengdu. Someone else spoke up. All of us here tonight are knowledgeable and widely read in the classics. We are men with a sense of honor and shame and well acquainted with the law. We cannot stand by and do nothing. Then what should we do? Shee Hongxuan asked. The same person answered. We are all students of the Imperial College. If public sentiment opposes it loudly enough, His Majesty will have to reconsider. Why not kneel together before Mingli Hall and beseech His Majesty to retract his pardon and dole out a stronger punishment on that wretch Shun Zichuan? The guests roared their assent. Shee Hongxuan clapped his hands and cried, Excellent! All of you here are indeed the pillars of our empire. You will be remembered throughout the ages for bending your knees today. This humble one is ashamed I cannot do more myself. I'm no student of the Imperial College, but I am still willing to join you. That won't do, the scholar replied. Your elder brother is the military commissioner of the 8 great battalions. If you're implicated in such an act of dissent, you stand to lose much more than you'd gain. Gentlemen, we'll be the ones to go. The feast drew to a close. Yao Wenyu called for the server to steam some tender and palatable meat dishes to take with him. As he stood waiting, he overheard the scholars whispering as they descended the stairs. So much for that unpolished jade. Unprincipled coward is more like it. Did you see him earlier? He didn't say a single word. Hongxuan Xiong is a model of benevolence compared to him. Footnote number 20, Xiong, a word meaning elder brother. It can be attached as a suffix to address an older male peer. Yao Wenyu tossed a pine nut into his mouth and laughed soundlessly. He didn't bother to confront them. By the time he stepped outside with his wrapped-up dishes, the scholars had more or less dispersed. Yuanzhou, Shee Hongxuan called. Shall I give you a lift? No thanks. Yao Wenyu lifted the bundle in his hand. I'm heading for my teacher's manor. Shee Hongxuan watched Yao Wenyu's departing figure until it was out of sight. Then he sneered. Let's go. Elsewhere, Shun Zichuan had arrived at the offices of the embroidered uniform guard. From the moment he stepped over the threshold, all eyes were upon him. Every guard rushing through the compound glanced at him as they passed. Good Ching-ching led Shun Zichuan to the registry. The embroidered uniform guard is made up of 4 groups. The first is selected from household-designated female houses in the yellow register. Their sisters work in the palace. These men are exempt from military service, but as their families receive a stipend from the palace, their posts are not permanent, and they don't draw a salary here. An example is Xiao. The second group received a recommendation from a palace eunuch. Conferment by eunuch's recommendation. Our chief commander is one of these. The third are those born into military households who owe their inherited positions to the blessing of legacy. I am one of these myself. The fourth are those with specialized skills. These are directly appointed by His Majesty regardless of background. These men are formidable indeed. You'll have a chance to meet them later. Ching-ching lifted the curtain and beckoned Shun Zichuan inside. This is where you come to register your name in the official records and receive your post. As Shun Zichuan entered, all noise in the registry abruptly ceased. Guards in their various uniforms, authority tokens at their waists, turned their heads as one. A bizarre silence descended on the hall. Shun Zichuan. A man sitting cross-legged at the table pushed aside his records book and looked him over. So you're the one, huh? Noting the flying fish embroidered on the man's robe, Shun Zichuan knew he was an assistant regional commander at least. He bent in a shallow bow and replied, "The very same." The man's hair flopped over his forehead. The stubble covered his jaw. His manner and bearing were markedly sloppy. With a hand to his chin, he smiled. "Huh, as expected of a son of a dancer. You're a looker. Whatever fortune in silver Shun Wei spent to win that beauty's smile was clearly worth the expense. Ching-ching, give him the token." So he's hot. Thanks for letting me know. He picked up a wooden token from the table. He had obviously anticipated Shun Zichuan's arrival and tossed it to Ching-ching. Ching-ching caught the token and handed it to Shun Zichuan. "This man is Lord Judge of the Imperial Prison here in our embroidered uniform guard. He made a special trip here today just to deliver your token. The name is Xiao Tianya." He motioned for Shun Zichuan to examine his new token. Shun Zichuan turned it over, read it, and looked at Xiao Tianya again. "The elephant training office, isn't it? That's where you'll be going then. Qingging will take you over there later, but first, there are some rules. In the embroidered uniform guard, our tokens are as precious as those of the 8 great battalions. When you're not on duty, keep it safe. Never lend it to outsiders. Now, everyone is assigned duties within the 12 offices, but that isn't your primary duty. Our primary duty is to serve at His Majesty's pleasure and obey his commands. On top of your 12 offices assignment, we also serve as the Emperor's eyes and ears. If something major happens, such as your arrest 5 years ago, we need His Majesty's Imperial Edict, with the warrant penned and the arrest token approved by the Emperor himself to carry out the arrest. Allocation of men is never decided by me or the Chief Commander. Instead, to ensure no one has prior knowledge, we draw lots for every warrant delivered. Chance decides." Gahng had briefed Shun Zichuan on most of this beforehand, so he nodded and said nothing. "One last thing." Xiao Tianya stood. His gaze took in everyone in the hall. "The embroidered uniform guard is of one mind. Once you wear our token, you are our brother. Any past grudges will disperse with the wind. There will be no tricks to frame or make fools of our brothers. If such a thing is discovered, your tokens will be revoked, your names struck off, and your next stop will be the Imperial prison to be dealt with to the harshest capacity." Everyone immediately dropped their gazes and busied themselves with their work. Satisfied, Xiao Tianya turned back to Shun Zichuan. "You may go." Shun Zichuan bowed to take his leave and followed Ching-ching out the door. "I thought it would be a post in the procession guard, like the fan bearers." Ching-ching looked at Shun Zichuan. "The elephant training office works too." Shun Zichuan smiled. "I had my guesses too, but I never thought I'd be raising elephants." I've been thinking it's this the whole time. Is it really what it's gonna be? Okay, let's see. The horse training office is the ideal post. Those golden saddled horses are raised for the highest nobles. In that post, you get plenty of chances to meet them and get in their good graces, and it's easy to get recommended for promotion. The elephant training office... Ching-ching had an odd expression on his face. "It's not an idle job, since it involves attending morning and court sessions. Furthermore, those lordly elephants are a pain in the ass to serve. On the bright side, the chief commander rarely gets there, so it'll be difficult for him to make trouble for you. The elephant training office was close to Mingli Public Road in the imperial city, which led right to the Qingging River. When the weather was hot, the guards herded the elephants to the river to drink and bathe. They were also charged with leading 6 elephants to stand at either side of the stairs daily during morning court. In the event of a major festival or hunt, they increased the number of elephants. These elephants would not only attend morning court sessions like the officials did, they would also be dismissed from court sessions together with their human counterparts. But while the court officials were hard-pressed to take time away to convalesce when they fell ill, the elephants had no such problem. Like the embroidered uniform guard, they worked in rotating shifts. Shun Zechuan had never raised so much as a dog, and now they were giving him the impossible task of raising elephants. All he could say was, "You never know what life has in store." He and Qingging were still on their way to Shun Zechuan's new post when they heard footsteps pelting after them. "What's the matter?" Qingging asked, turning around. The embroidered uniform guard racing up to them looked at Shun Zechuan and said solemnly, "The token has been suspended. He can't take up the post today. Hurry back to the registry." "Has the palace issued a new assignment?" Shun Zechuan asked. "There's no new order from the palace, but 3,000 students from the Imperial College are on a hunger strike. They're kneeling in protest right now, beseeching His Majesty to retract his order and punish the Shun clan remnant." Qingging's countenance filled with unease as he looked at Shun Zechuan. Having been punished with house arrest for his misdeeds, Chr-yeh spent the morning flipping through a play on his settee. Even when he heard Chun-yang announce Prince Chu's arrival, he could hardly be bothered to rise. "I'm grounded," Chr-yeh said without looking up and reached for a piece of fruit. "What are you doing barging in here so brazenly?" Jianheng tossed down Chr-yeh's Supreme Commander token, obviously excited. "Z'an, something big's happened." Chr-yeh's eyelid twitched. 3,000 students have knelt to ask His Majesty to punish Shun Zechuan severely. They've been kneeling there all day, using a hunger strike to force His Majesty's hand. When His Majesty heard about it during dinner, he was so angry he collapsed onto his bed. Chr-yeh looked at the token. "Get that thing out of here." "The 8th grade battalions won't do anything to disperse the students, so they asked me to deliver the token to you. If the Imperial Army can disperse the students tonight, the mark against you will be written off." Jianheng stamped his foot anxiously. "If nothing else, can't the Imperial Army deal with a few weak students? This is a good thing." Chr-yeh covered his face with the book. After a moment of silence, he hissed through clenched teeth, "And what a fucking good thing it is." Not only were students of the Imperial College future candidates for official positions in the Imperial Court, they had no small influence among local scholars across the country. Guan knew it was risky to touch them. If Chr-yeh laid a finger on these students tonight, he would be the first to perish under the weight of their words in the future. Sitting up, Chr-yeh asked with his hands propped on his knees, "Where's Shun Zechuan right now?" "I heard he went to the embroidered uniform guard's registry early this morning." Jianheng watched Chr-yeh jump up and throw on his clothes. "Where are we going? Are we going to look for Shun Zechuan?" Chr-yeh raced down the stairs to where Chun-yang had already prepared his horse. In a flash, he leapt into the saddle and rode hard toward the palace. Chapter 16. Tempest. Are we calling Shun Zechuan the Tempest? As Chr-yeh set out, the wind rose. Rain soon followed. He galloped straight through, arriving at the Imperial College just in time to hear one of the scholars, Gao Dongxiong, shouting over the crowd, "Until the traitor is executed, the wrath of the public will not be appeased." The mass of students kowtowed and echoed in unison, "Until the traitor is executed, the wrath of the public will not be appeased." The rain spattered against the ground. The students' robes were drenched. Chr-yeh reined in his horse so sharply it danced in place. He looked down at those bent backs for a moment, then raised his voice. Where were you 5 years ago? If you gentlemen had knelt to make your case back when the traitor's son first entered the capital, he would never have lived to this day. Gao Zhongxiong's chest heaved. Lord Supreme Commander, as they say, better late than never. The Shun remnant has yet to spread his wings. As long as His Majesty is willing to retract his pardon and punish him to the fullest extent, the loyal souls lost in Zhongbo will still be consoled. An imperial edict from the Son of Heaven cannot be issued at dawn and rescinded at dusk, Xiao Chih said. You are not beseeching His Majesty by kneeling. You are threatening him. All your gentlemen here are loyal and filial men of the world. There are 100 ways you can make your appeal. Why insist on this unwise course? Your Excellency, Gao Zhongxiong looked up. Men who wield swords die in battles, while men who wield brushes die in remonstrations. If we watch helplessly while His Majesty is deceived into such decisions, we might as well let our blood spill on the terrace tonight. Let our death prove our faith. You threaten death with every sentence, Xiao Qr-yeh scoffed. After all this time, is that all civil servants are capable of? The rain grew heavier. The students didn't budge. Xiao Qr-yeh dismounted and squatted before Gao Zhongxiong. Water poured down in sheets. He leaned in and asked, Who put you up to this? A look of great resolve came over Gao Zhongxiong's face. I am driven to action by my loyalty to my sovereign. Pfft, I don't think so, Xiao Qr-yeh drawled. Of course, if you want to protect an outsider, you can. It's just that your actions today have implicated all 3,000 of your fellow students behind you. If this angers the Son of Heaven, and it turns into a bloodbath, the lot of you will be no different from the wretched remnant of the Shun clan. Sin is condemned through the ages. And that isn't even the worst part. What's worse is this. Even if your head rolls, His Majesty still won't rescind his edict. For a dozen years, you devoted yourself to your studies, all to be someone else's tool. Gao Zhongxiong lifted a hand to wipe the rain off his face. I am doing this out of loyalty and righteousness. This is nothing like the Shun clan's treachery. Even if all 3,000 of us were to die here tonight and our blood flooded the terrace, it would all be for the sake of His Majesty. The palace has neither withdrawn Shun Sichuan's post, nor have they issued any edict to appease these students, Xiao Qr-yeh said. Do you understand His Majesty's intent? For each day His Majesty does not rescind his order, Gao Zhongxiong persisted, we will neither rise, eat, nor retreat. The thunderstorm raged overhead. Xiao Qr-yeh straightened. Chun-yang stepped forward with an umbrella, but Xiao Qr-yeh raised a hand to stop him. Rain soaked his robe. Even the token hanging from his belt dripped with water. My lord, Chun-yang murmured, the embroidered uniform guard is here. Xiao Qr-yeh turned and saw Qiao Tianya arriving on horseback through the rain. He dismounted and cupped his hands in salute. Murmurs rose among the students as they recognized the Scarlet Cavalry. A thorny problem. Nothing to trouble your excellency, the Supreme Commander, over. Qiao Tianya put a hand to his blade and smiled. A member of the embroidered uniform guard is the target here, so naturally, we should be the ones to resolve this. Resolve this. Xiao Qr-yeh raised an arm almost thoughtlessly and rested it on Qiao Tianya's shoulder. How does your excellency propose to resolve this? It's just some unarmed students. Nothing to trouble the embroidered uniform guard over. The emperor is the highest authority in Chudu. Qiao Tianya glanced sidelong at him. Anyone with the gall to defy His Majesty become enemies of the embroidered uniform guard. Xiao Qr-yeh looked him in the eye. After a moment, both men burst out laughing. My good man, Xiao Qr-yeh said, you're certainly of true heart. It's cold and wet out here. Qiao Tianya tightened his grip on his blade. I'll send someone to escort the Supreme Commander back to your manor. I just got here. Xiao Qr-yeh's hand was heavy on Qiao Tianya's shoulder, preventing him from unsheathing the blade. Still smiling, he said, there's no harm in staying a little longer. This is a tricky situation. Why does your excellency insist on wading into these muddy waters? It's precisely because it's tricky that I'm wading in. We can't deal with all of them at once, Xiao said. Besides, these students are all great minds of the state. None of us can shoulder the blame of losing even one. At the back of the embroidered uniform guard, a man in a thin, wide-sleeved robe dismounted his horse. Oh God, I wonder if it's... Okay. He carried no blade. Amid the others, he stood out like a sore thumb. Qiao Tianya loosened his grip on his hilt and shouted, Lanzhou, come here a moment. Yes. Shun Zichuan turned and exchanged glances with Chr-yeh. Qiao Tianya shrugged Chr-yeh's arm off with a languid roll of his shoulders. The Supreme Commander's concern is valid. However, the embroidered uniform guard do not simply bludgeon our way through our tasks. I already made arrangements. The Imperial Order should arrive any minute. Ah, there it is. The two of you are old acquaintances, are you not? Stay with the Supreme Commander a while, Lanzhou. The students have frightened him. Shun Zichuan gathered his sleeves and looked out at the students kneeling in the rain. Xiao shot him a glance. You sure wasted no time picking up your token. Argong's token was returned quite briskly as well, Shun Zichuan replied. Xiao smiled, though his eyes were cold. This protest appears to take aim at you, but the real target is the palace. You didn't win enough for yourself yesterday and had to whip up the storm the moment you escaped your cage. Tipping his head, Shun Zichuan looked at him with eyes full of innocence. Argongza thinks too highly of me. I certainly haven't the ability to cause such a tempest. If the real target is the palace, one wonders who is praying for His Majesty to fall out with the Hua clan. Surely Argongza would know better than I. I don't, Xiao said. All this convoluted stuff is beyond my understanding. Shun Zichuan smiled. We're old acquaintances. There's no need to put on an act with me. Xiao didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a finger and flicked the token at Shun Zichuan's waist. The Elephant Trading Office is a good place. You must be pleased. That I am, Shun Zichuan said. It just so happens I have some insight on taming ferocious beasts. Oh, God. I cannot. Wouldn't call that insight. I'm so sorry. Wait. Wouldn't call that insight, Xiao said. More like a conversation between two like creatures. I daren't entertain such conversation. Shun Zichuan coughed quietly. If our talk breaks down and I receive another kick, wouldn't all my efforts be for naught? Use your fangs, then. Xiao took the umbrella from Chun Yang and held it overhead, covering Shun Zichuan too. Don't you have sharp teeth and a sharper tongue? What are you afraid of? I value my life. Shun Zichuan heaved an affected sigh. As they say, the kindness of a drop of water shall be repaid with a gushing spring. There is so much more I wish to repay Argongza for. Xiao scoffed. You must have the wrong person. That can't be. Shun Zichuan cast a sidelong glance at Xiao and said calmly, I recognize you. Fine, then. Xiao looked askance at him as well. I also want to show you how much I owe you. The voices beyond the umbrella fell away. The two men stood shoulder to shoulder, accentuating their stark difference in height. Regrettably, there's no way you can stay out of this matter. Xiao gazed at the students in the rain. If even one of them dies tonight, the blame will fall on you. 30,000 wrongfully perished souls and counting. Shun Zichuan said nonchalantly, if they're afraid to die, they shouldn't have become someone else's weapon. Even if someone tries to pin this on me, who says I have to lie down and take it? They fell silent again, waiting in the rain. Qiao Tianya had been sitting under a shed eating melon seeds. When he saw the expected sedan chair approaching, he casually shook the shells off his robe and stood, watching the silhouette sway toward them in the gloom of night. The curtain lifted, revealing Pahn Rugui within. A junior eunuch supported him with a hand, while Ji Lei kept pace at his side, holding an umbrella. Wearing a robe with a mandarin square of tiger, mugwort, and 5 poisons in a black, wide-brimmed hat, Pahn Rugui let Qiao Tianya guide him toward the students. Qiao Tianya reined in his glib demeanor. What a downpour! To think they managed to draw the director out in this weather. Pahn Rugui cast a glance at Gao Zhongxiong and asked Qiao Tianya, "He won't back down?" "Scholars are bullheaded," Qiao Tianya replied. "They're neither enticed by the carrot nor cowed by the stick." "Then I'm afraid the stick isn't sturdy enough." Pahn Rugui had lost his right-hand man only the day before and had nowhere to vent his pent-up anger. With a junior eunuch supporting him, he came to stand before Gao Zhongxiong. "You are well read in the classics. How is it you can't comprehend the words overstepping your bounds? Affairs of the imperial court are to be discussed in the imperial court. Brats as green as grass have no business meddling." On seeing this familiar lackey of the Hua clan's faction, Gao Zhongxiong couldn't help but sit up straighter. "Every man has a duty to his country. Since students of the Imperial College benefit from the imperial stipend, we must serve the imperial throne. These days, treacherous toadies abound in every corner of the palace. If we don't—" "Treacherous toadies?" Pahn Rugui sneered. "What a fine way to put it. Who directed you to slander the imperial court and malign his majesty?" "It was a loyal—" "Enough," Pahn Rugui snapped. "You act on the instigation of traitors with sinister motives and publicly defy an imperial decree. You incite your clique to slander the imperial court and the people. If this goes unpunished, what use is the law? Men, take them." Gao Zhongxiong had never expected Pahn Rugui to be so brazen as to arrest him without cause. He braced himself there in the rain and cried, "Who dares lay a hand on me? I was chosen by His Majesty himself to study in the Imperial College. Villains stand before us, and eunuchs endanger the state." He hoarsely continued, "The Empress Dowager exerts control over state affairs and refuses to return governance to its rightful master. If anyone should be arrested, it's treacherous ministers and traitors like you." "You better be careful, sir." "Take him away," Jee-lei snapped, seeing Pahn Rugui's temper flare. The embroidered uniform guard stepped forward. Gao Zhongxiong's attempt to climb to his feet was thwarted. He raised his arms in the direction of the palace and shouted, "Take my death today as a remonstration to the state. If the eunuch wants to kill me, then let him. Your Majesty." Qiao Tianya locked his arms around Gao Zhongxiong's neck. The scholar struggled for breath, yet still croaked out, "Your Majesty, with treacherous ministers ruling the court, is there any place for the loyal and the righteous?" Xiao Chr-yeh had a single thought. Oh shit. I don't know why that's so funny. What happened next was just as expected. I'm sorry, y'all. Oh gosh. Sorrow and indignation surged through the 3,000 students. They gave no thought to life and death amid their fervent aggrievement. As the storm raged above them, the students climbed to their feet and charged the embroidered uniform guard. "Eunuchs endanger the state!" The young men yanked the pouches off their belts and hurled them at Pahn Rugui. Bitter cries rang out. "Treacherous ministers rule the court!" Jee-lei instantly shielded Pahn Rugui, retreating with him toward safety. "What are you doing?" he called back furiously. "Staging a rebellion? Here is the real traitor to the nation!" The students flung themselves against the embroidered uniform guard, holding them back. Their fingers jabbed toward Jee-lei's face, and specks of saliva flew as they shouted, "State traitor! Traitor!" Xiao Chr-yeh tossed the umbrella to Shen Zechuan and hurried down the steps. Shen Zechuan stood alone at the top of the stairs and watched the fray with cool detachment. Pahn Rugui had been shoved back into his sedan. In the chaos, Jee-lei had even lost one of his shoes. So softly that he could barely be heard, Shen Zechuan said, "Turbulence seethes below the surface. An impressive showing, Lord Jee." A chuckle rose from beneath the umbrella. He spun the handle leisurely, then turned to watch Xiao Chr-yeh's receding figure. Grand Mentor Qi and Gahng sat beneath the eaves, drinking wine with tea. Was killing Xiao Fuzi a ploy to get Trenar out? Gahng drank his tea. As though he couldn't bear to drink it all at once, Grand Mentor Qi took tiny sips of his wine. He hugged the gourd and said, "Who knows? Guess if you wish." "Pfft, no matter what, his safety comes first," Gahng said, turning to him. Grand Mentor Qi shook his gourd. "On the battlefield, obtaining the element of surprise requires risky maneuvers. You taught him martial arts so he could remain calm and protect himself as he wades into danger. Sometimes we must cast safety aside. Only out of the most desperate situations can one grasp true victory." Gahng watched the rain grow heavier, worry clouding his face. "I've already made arrangements for the task you entrusted me with. We're casting a long line." Grand Mentor Qi scratched his foot. "If you don't weather the waves for a few years before you haul it in, all you will catch are foul fish and rotten shrimp. Should there come a day, before this is over, when you and I lose our lives, then today's arrangement will be the killing move that will preserve his life." Chapter 17. Turbulence. "What's all that racket?" The Empress Dowager, awoken in the middle of the night, sat up and draped a robe over herself. Hua Xiangyi pulled the bed canopy back and helped her move aside her warm and fragrant bedding. "The students of the Imperial College want His Majesty to rescind his order," she murmured. Maid servants on either side quietly lit the lamps and raised their curtains as the Empress Dowager rose. Hua Xiangyi helped her to the Arhat bed, then brought soft cushions and a hand warmer while she heated some yogurt. Ew. The Empress Dowager stirred the bowl, a slight crease between her brows. How did this happen out of the blue? She considered a moment. The order was only given yesterday, and they came to cause this disturbance tonight. It's rather too timely. It's students from the Imperial College, too. Hua Xiangyi leaned against the Empress Dowager. All the learned minds across the land look to the Imperial College. Even the Secretariat Elder himself would find it ill-advised to interfere. The Empress Dowager took a careful spoonful of the yogurt. Her bare face under the lamplight was etched with signs of her years. Yet, it only added character to her elegant profile. Slowly, she set the bowl aside and leaned back against the cushions, staring at the glazed lampshade. "That's right," she said after a time. "Shun Wei's crimes are known to all. By all rules of sentiment and logic, the Secretariat Elder cannot move forward and rebuke the students. If they force His Majesty to rescind his order, I'll have to swallow this bitter pill in silence." "It was never His Majesty's intent to release Shan Sichuan," Hua Xiangyi said. "Now, because of this order, he has earned a reputation of being misguided. I'm afraid this will open a rift between you." "No matter," the Empress Dowager said. "Once concubine Wei is with child, our great Zhou will have an heir. An imperial heir is the foundation of an empire. As long as we have one, I'm still Empress Dowager. The Emperor has been at odds with me since he fell ill. Even if he's angry now, it's merely a tantrum thrown in a moment of weakness. Let him be." Since falling ill years ago, the Xiande Emperor had gradually stopped complying with the Empress Dowager's wishes. His small acts of defiance concerned trivial daily matters, but they were nevertheless an indication of his dissent. The Empress Dowager had assumed command in the palace with Pahn at her side and Secretariat Elder Hua in the imperial court. If she wanted to cement the Hua clan supremacy, she needed a submissive and obedient emperor. If the Xiande Emperor no longer fit the bill, she would find another. The Empress Dowager did not like Prince Chu for one crucial reason. Li Jianheng had already come of age. He was neither a helpless child nor a youth who had grown up at her feet. Should he ascend the throne, he would never be as compliant as an imperial grandson she had personally raised. Moreover, the appeal today is a slap in His Majesty's face, the Empress Dowager said calmly. In the 9 years he has been on the throne, his every concern, his food, clothing, his day-to-day business, whether important or trivial, has gone through me. Now he wants to be an independent and imperious ruler. He emboldened himself to show goodwill to the Xiao clan, refusing at first to release Shan Sichuan and protect Prince Chu. But I know him. He is outwardly strong, yet inwardly weak. In his heart, He fears me. This is why he aimed from the start to please both parties. Instead, he's ended up thoroughly offending all sides. Didn't His Majesty keep Shun Zichuan in detention all these years for the sake of the Xiao clan? The Empress Dowager took Hua Xiangyi's hand. What does detention mean? She said soberly. Detention is a reprieve from death. His Majesty thought he did the Xiao clan a favor, but he was sowing the seeds of disaster. Xiao Jiming lost his younger brother to Chudu, so Li Bei wants Shun Zichuan dead. As long as Shun Zichuan lives, His Majesty is letting down all those 120,000 armored cavalry who came to his aid when the Shun clan failed him. Think about it. Xiao Jiming has worked himself to the bone to prove his loyalty. He even relinquished his younger brother. He has conducted himself with frankness and sincerity toward His Majesty, and yet, to avoid offending me, His Majesty dismissed Shun Zichuan's death sentence and locked him away instead. As long as Shun Zichuan lives, he will water the roots of trouble. This is a struggle between life and death, but His Majesty remains naive. And need I mention this disaster? To shield Prince Chu, His Majesty refuses to launch a full investigation into Xiao Fuzi's death, thwarting Pahn Ruguy's attempt to move against the prince. At the same time, he worries I'll hold a grudge, so he reluctantly lets Shun Zichuan out to appease me. He thinks the Xiao clan will understand his dilemma, but when Xiao Jiming hears of this in faraway Li Bei, he will certainly not be happy. In that case, Hua Xiangyi said, could someone from the Xiao clan have put the students up to it? Forcing His Majesty to renege on his word would put him at odds with the Hua clan and prevent both you and the Secretariat Elder from stepping forward. It would also see Shun Zichuan eliminated without dirtying their own hands. The Empress Dowager brushed aside Hua Xiangyi's stray hair. If it were so clear-cut, she said dotingly, then Xiao Jiming wouldn't be one of the 4 generals. That young man has always been prudent. If he were the perpetrator, he would not be found out so easily. Besides, Li Bei has no contact with the Imperial College. Well, then, I can't guess. Hua Xiangyi leaned on the Empress Dowager and said like a pampered child, Tell me, Auntie. All right. The Empress Dowager had no children of her own, nor was she close with any of her maternal relatives. She doted only on Hua Xiangyi. Look at the 8 cities that encircle the capital. These are where the 8 great clans originated. Our Hua clan resides in Dicheng, south of Chudu. When it comes to selecting ladies of the palace, it has always been the city of choice. But only during my time has the Hua clan reached the height of glory, coming first among the 8 great clans. Before that, when the late emperor ascended the throne, the Yao clan had held the most influence since they had thrice been conferred as the emperor's tutor. If not for old Master Yao's lack of literary talent, Qi Huilian from Yuzhou might not have become the grand mentor of the crown prince during the Yongyi years. She continued, From the current Xi clan, Shi Guan is the only one to have been promoted as high as military commissioner of the 8 great battalions, where he could manage the younger generations of the 8 great clans. Think of him as a teacher in the military camps. The Shi clan has always bred men of inferior morals and virtues. They will not achieve great things. As for the Xue clan, their decline began when the eldest head of their family passed away. Xue Xiuzhou is the only one now with an official post in the central administration. But the hour is late. I can speak of the Wei, Pahn, Fei, and Han clans some other time. I've heard father speak of them before, Hua Xiangyi said. So Auntie is saying the hidden instigator of the Imperial College riot might be anyone from the 8 clans? That's what I suspect, the Empress Dowager said. Glory is enjoyed in turns. The Hua clan has enjoyed the sunlight for many years since my ascent. Now that His Majesty is in such poor health, people may begin to entertain certain ambitions. Summon Pahn Rugui tomorrow morning. Let him instruct the embroidered uniform guard to conduct an investigation. It should be thorough but covert. There's only so much space in Chudu. I don't believe there is not a single loose lip to be found. Xiao Chr-yeh wrung water from his robes as he entered Mingli Hall beside Jile. It was deep in the night, but the Xiande Emperor was still awake. You were under house arrest to reflect on the error of your ways. The Emperor was holding a report. After a moment, he glanced at Chr-yeh and asked hoarsely, "So what are you doing running around with the embroidered uniform, guard?" Chr-yeh felt truly ill-used. "Military Commissioner Shee personally asked me to go out. This humble subject assumed it was by your majesty's verbal decree." "So you went," the emperor said. "And how did it go?" Jee-lei fell to his knees and kowtowed. "Your majesty, the students of the Imperial College were instigated to action by an unknown party. They not only spoke presumptuously on state affairs and slandered your majesty, they also laid hands on Pahn Gong. It was utter chaos. This humble subject wished to take them into custody, but the supreme commander refused." He hadn't been alone either. The whole Imperial army seemed cast in the same mold as their commander. They had every one of them shamelessly obstructed the embroidered uniform guard, preventing them from rounding up the students. They may as well have dropped to the ground and thrown a tantrum. This horde of idle ruffians had skins as thick as the city wall. "You obstructed the guard from arresting the students?" the emperor asked Chr-yeh. "If the students were taken into the imperial prison, how many would survive?" Chr-yeh explained. "Their lives are insignificant, but what if it tainted your majesty's good name?" "They formed a faction and colluded with unknown malefactors," Jee-lei argued indignantly. "They acted with intent to dismantle the rule and order of the court. If we do not send them to trial, then what use is the embroidered uniform guard?" The emperor coughed for several moments before he said, "Zhe-ANNE has done well. Your majesty." Jee-lei looked back at him in disbelief. "This mob of students gathered to foment a riot. They dared shout the word rebellion. If we do not take the harshest hand with them, we endanger the empire and state." "They merely spoke their minds," the emperor said mildly. "If they hadn't been pushed this far, why would they set down their brushes to come trade blows with the embroidered uniform guard? That wretched descendant of the Shun clan should have never been released. If it weren't for... The emperor cast aside the report as he was racked by coughs. It was a long time before his breathing settled. "Even so, they must be punished. Reduce the Imperial College's stipend by half and cut their meals from twice a day to once. The punishment shall last for half a year." When he saw that the emperor had made up his mind, Jee-lei said no more. He remained kneeling in silence, but the emperor sensed his thoughts. "The embroidered uniform guard are our dogs." The Xiande emperor's gaze bored into Jee-lei. "You are their chief commander. Why are you going around acknowledging others as your godfather or grand-godfather? We've said nothing until now, only out of faith in your apparent deference. Tonight, we want you to appease the students of the Imperial College. Do you understand?" Jee-lei kowtowed. "This humble subject obeys. The embroidered uniform guard serves only your majesty." By the time Chr-yeh and Jee-lei emerged, the rain had subsided to a drizzle. Junior eunuchs from the bailiff office ran up to hold umbrellas for the two of them. Jee-lei's expression was unpleasant as he raised his hands in a departing bow to Chr-yeh. Chr-yeh appeared unconcerned. "My hands are tied, Lao-ji. I was placed under house arrest only yesterday. For the sake of my freedom, I didn't dare lay a hand on the students." Chr-yeh's cavalier attitude infuriated Jee-lei, but what could he do? He jerked his chin in a cursory nod, wishing Chr-yeh would leave. "But what do you think of my imperial army?" Chr-yeh took the umbrella from the junior eunuch's hand and waved him off, walking out of the palace right beside Jee-lei. "What do I think?" Jee-lei fumed. "I think they're a bunch of thugs. They're even more useless now under your command." But he said politely, "They seem much more spirited than before." "Right?" Chr-yeh agreed shamelessly. "Honestly, the Imperial Army's drill grounds are too small for us to properly stretch our legs. Do you think you could ask the commissioner of the Great 8 battalions if he would allocate some land for the Imperial Army?" Jee-lei had heard Chr-yeh was primarily using the drill grounds to play polo with the Imperial Army. He never expected the man would have the guts to ask for more land. But he couldn't very well turn Chr-yeh down right to his face, so he said, "I'm afraid that would be difficult. When Prince Chu expanded his manor last month, his forced seizure of civilian residences was reported to the prefectural yamen. These days, people are crammed everywhere in Chudu. Where is Gu'an going to find space for you to build a military drill ground? Besides, if there's a spot in the city, it would go first to the 8 great battalions." Xiao sighed beneath the umbrella. "Well, if we can't get a piece of land in the city, we can make do outside it, as long as the space is large enough for us to play to our heart's content." At once, Jile grasped the intent behind this conversation. He looked at Xiao and snorted. "All right, Argongzi. You've taken a fancy to a piece of land, have you not? Why play dumb with me?" "I'm asking you for a favor, Lao Ji," Xiao said. "You have more connections than anyone in the capital. If you ask, how can the commissioner turn you down? We can negotiate the details once the deal goes through." "There's no need to talk money with me." Jile's attitude softened. "I've taken a godson, and I was just wondering where to find a good mount for him. When it comes to horses, no one's more knowledgeable than you, Argongzi." "Sure, I'll give them a few horses to play with," answered Xiao. "They're bred from the herds of the Hongyan Mountains, no worse than my own. I'll have someone deliver them right to your manor in the next few days." "I'll speak to Gu'an then," Jile said. "The drill ground is a piece of cake. Just wait for good news." By the time the two parted, the rain had stopped. Xiao climbed into a carriage where Chunyang waited. Watching Jile's sedan depart, Chunyang asked, "Is my lord really going to give him our horses? What a waste." "No such thing as a free lunch." Xiao kicked off his boots, which had long been soaked through. "We need a drill ground. Anything inside the capital will draw too much attention. And if that old crook can't deliver on his promise after accepting the horses," he added coldly, "I'll send his godson to meet his ancestors." The carriage began to move. Xiao wiped his face with a handkerchief and asked, "Where is he?" "He? Shun Zechuan. He went back ages ago." Chunyang poured a cup of tea for Xiao. "His steps seemed faltering to me. With a weak constitution like that, how is he going to work in the embroidered uniform guard?" "He'll be raising elephants." Xiao took the tea and gulped it down. "That invalid is only too eager to dodge manual labor. He's most definitely the sort who loafs on the job." The alleged loafer let out a sharp sneeze. He sat in the dimness for a moment, wondering if he'd caught a cold. The door opened, and a rotund figure strode in. "What a fine spot," Xi Hongxuan marveled. "Not even the embroidered uniform guard will be able to find this place." "It's a broken-down manor no one wants to rent. That's the only thing good about it," Shun Zechuan replied without turning around. "But it can't have been easy to get your hands on it." Xi Hongxuan rubbed his palms together as he took a seat at the table and looked at Shun Zechuan. "This is the manor the late emperor bestowed on the crown prince at the time, who then gifted it to Qi Huilian. It was sold off after Qi Huilian died. How did it end up in your possession?" Shun Zechuan sipped his tea and shot a pointed glance at Xi Hongxuan. Xi Hongxuan lazily raised his hands. "Look at this foolish mouth of mine, always prying into people's business. I heard on the way here that Pahn Rugui got knocked down a peg too. You do move fast, don't you?" "The eldest Lord Xi is military commissioner of the 8 great battalions," Shun Zechuan said. "The student incident, whether he had a part in it or not, has roused the Empress Dowager's suspicion. He will have a very hard time in the days ahead. The harder it is, the easier I'll sleep." Xi Hongxuan placed his fleshy palms on the table. "Instead of waiting for higher officials of the imperial court to find the nerve to raise it, may as well get the students to speak up first. And we have the advantage of first move. After this incident, you really are free." Shun Zechuan reached for a dish and grasped some vegetables with his chopsticks. "Just a small trick. It's nothing compared to yours." Xi Hongxuan watched Shun Zechuan eat before he touched his own chopsticks. "So, What will you do now? Just try to get by in the embroidered uniform guard, Shun Zichuan said. But Jile is Pahn Ruguy's godson and the sworn brother of Shi Guan. If you want to kill Shi Guan, you'll have to get past Jile. Why not split the two of them between us, and they can be brothers for all eternity? Shi Hongshuan sniggered. Leaning over the table with a sinister look, he asked Shun Zichuan, "What's your grudge against Jile?" Shun Zichuan picked out the peppercorns in his dish. Without lifting a finger, he answered, "I don't like his shoes." What? Alrighty, everyone. So that concludes the reading of chapters 14 through 17 for today. Like I said, I am going to reserve my thoughts for our live session coming up on Friday, but I thoroughly enjoyed these chapters, and it was just funny to me to see Shun Zichuan and Xiao Chr-yeh flirty McFlirt pantsing with each other. Like, even though it was very light, it was still flirtatious to me. I don't know. Did anyone else feel that way? I was like, y'all better stop. What are you doing? Anyway, please let me know your thoughts and reactions in the comment section. And if you have any questions, please also put those there so that, I can gather a list of these questions and we can talk about those things as well. Anyway, that is all for today. I will see you all tomorrow. So, 我爱你们.